Face down, ma'am, right now. The command cracked across the gas station lot so sharply that even the pump screens seemed to go silent. Heads turned. A man reaching for his coffee froze beside the convenience store door. A teenager holding a bag of ice stopped mid-step. Angela Brooks stood between pump number 4 and her dark blue SUV, one hand still wrapped around a bottle of water, the other holding a small paper sack with prescription medicine inside. The late afternoon sun pressed heat into the concrete, turning the air above the blacktop into a shimmering blur. For half a second, she thought the officer was speaking to someone else. Then she saw his eyes fixed on her. Officer Daniel Mercer moved toward her with quick authority, one palm raised, the other resting near his radio. Behind him, a younger officer, Ryan Cole, circled wide as if they had rehearsed the moment. "Step away from the vehicle," Mercer said. "Now." Angela slowly set the water bottle on top of the pump. She did not argue. She did not raise her voice. Her pearl gray blouse fluttered once in the warm breeze, and she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear with steady fingers. "Officer," she said calmly, "there has to be some mistake." Mercer's jaw tightened. "The plate on this SUV matches a vehicle connected to an active theft report." The words landed loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. Murmurs spread through the lot like wind through dry grass. Angela glanced at her own license plate, then back at him. "This vehicle is registered to me." "Save it for downtown," Mercer replied. Ryan Cole had already moved behind her, nervous energy in every step. Angela looked toward the highway beyond the station, where traffic rolled past in waves of chrome and sunlight. Somewhere 10 miles away, a hospital monitor was likely beeping beside her father's bed. She had promised him she would be there before evening. She had promised him she would bring the medicine the doctor requested. The paper sack at her feet suddenly felt heavier than stone. "My father is in intensive care," she said. "If you run the VIN, this can be cleared up in 2 minutes." Mercer gave a short laugh with no warmth in it. Funny how people get real cooperative when they're caught. Several customers pretended not to stare, but none looked away for long. A woman near pump 6 quietly lifted her phone. Angela noticed, then let her gaze pass on. She had learned long ago that dignity often arrived in silence. "Officer Cole," she said softly, eyes still on Mercer, "your partner's holster strap is loose." The younger officer instinctively looked down and tightened it, embarrassed. Mercer's face darkened. "You giving safety lessons now?" Angela did not answer. The smell of gasoline drifted through the heat. A flag above the station roof snapped once in the wind. Mercer stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough to sharpen it. "Hands where I can see them." Angela raised them slowly. The bracelet on her wrist caught the sunlight in a brief silver flash. "You are delaying a family emergency over an error," she said. "Then clear the error," Mercer said. He reached for the driver's side door handle, peered inside, then signaled Ryan forward. "Detain her." The crowd shifted, sensing escalation before understanding it. Angela looked at the digital clock above the gas station entrance. For 12 p.m. She inhaled once, steady and measured, then turned her eyes back to Mercer. "Officer," she said in a voice so calm it unsettled him more than shouting ever could. "My husband asked me to stay patient." Ryan Cole hesitated for only a second before stepping in with a pair of cuffs hanging from his hand. The metal caught the sunlight, bright and cold, then disappeared in the shadow between them. Angela lowered her wrists without protest. Her expression did not crack. She looked past the officers to the road, where an ambulance siren wailed somewhere in the distance before fading into traffic. It sounded too much like urgency, too much like time running out. "Please listen carefully," she said. "My father is at St. Matthew Medical Center, room 12 ICU. He asked for me by name an hour ago." Mercer did not blink. "You should have thought about that before stealing a vehicle." A few people in the lot exchanged looks. Even Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Angela turned her head slightly toward him. "Officer Cole, run the VIN number on the lower windshield. It will match my registration and insurance card in the center console." Ryan glanced toward the glass. He could see the sticker. He could also see Mercer watching him. "Do not touch that vehicle until impound arrives," Mercer said sharply. Ryan stepped back. Angela's wrists were secured in front of her. She accepted the restraint with a composure that made the scene feel upside down. Most people would have shouted by now. Most people would have begged. Instead, she stood as straight as a church candle. "You are making a public mistake," she said quietly. Mercer leaned closer. No, ma'am. I am correcting one. The woman near pump 6 lowered her phone for a moment. Officer, she has been standing here the whole time, she said. She just bought water. Mercer pointed without looking at her. Stay out of police business. The woman lifted the phone again. A truck driver near the diesel pumps muttered something under his breath and shook his head. The station clerk peered through the front window, nervous hands gripping the counter. Angela looked down at the paper sack on the ground. The medicine receipt had slid halfway out. Her father's last name was printed clearly across the label. Brooks. She bent slightly. May I pick that up? No sudden movement, Mercer snapped. Ryan took a breath, then crouched and retrieved the bag himself. He read the label before handing it back. His eyes flickered toward Angela, then to Mercer. Sir, he said carefully. The prescription is hers. So is the story, Mercer replied. Angela accepted the bag with cuffed hands. Thank you, Officer Cole. The younger man nodded once, almost apologetically. Heat shimmered above the pumps. A delivery van rolled into the lot, slowed when the driver saw the scene, then reversed back out. Mercer spoke into his shoulder radio, giving dispatch the status in clipped tones. Angela listened without reacting until one phrase caught the air. Suspect detained. She closed her eyes for one brief second, then opened them again. I am not your suspect, she said. I am your test. Mercer laughed, but it came thinner this time. You think somebody important is coming to save you. Angela looked at the station clock again. For 15 p.m. 3 minutes had passed. She adjusted the cuffs slightly so the bracelet beneath them sat straight on her wrist. The engraved initials were almost hidden now. MB, no, she said with calm precision. I think somebody important is already on the way. At that exact moment, every radio on both officers crackled at once with sudden static, followed by a voice neither of them had ever heard on a local channel. All units on scene at Red River Gas and Go. Stand by for federal contact immediately. The gas station lot went still in the strange way places do before a storm. Even the usual sounds seemed to step back. The pumps clicked softly. A truck idled near the road. Somewhere inside the store, an ice machine hummed behind the glass door. Officer Mercer stared at the radio clipped to his shoulder as if it had spoken a foreign language. Ryan Cole looked from the device to Angela, then back again. Dispatch, Mercer said sharply, pressing the button. Repeat that transmission. Only static answered at first. Then a calm voice returned, colder and more precise than before. Unit on scene, maintain current position. Federal liaison inbound. Do not relocate the detained individual. Mercer lowered his hand slowly. His jaw flexed. This is county jurisdiction, he muttered, mostly to himself. Angela said nothing. She stood beneath the awning shadow with her wrists secured in front of her, the paper pharmacy bag resting against her blouse. A breeze moved across the lot and lifted the edge of the receipt. Brooks, the same name that now sat heavily in Mercer's mind, though he did not yet know why. Sir, Ryan said quietly, should we verify the registration now? Mercer shot him a look sharp enough to stop further words. We follow procedure. Ryan nodded, but not convincingly. Across the lot, more phones were visible now. A woman in scrubs had stepped out of her sedan and was openly recording. The truck driver remained by his cab, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The station clerk had locked the front door and watched from inside with both hands pressed to the glass. Angela glanced at the road. Again, her eyes did not search wildly. They measured distance. They measured time. Officer Mercer, she said with that same steady calm. My father served 30 years in uniform. He taught me something about authority. Mercer folded his arms. I did not ask for story time. He said authority is loud when it is insecure, she replied. Ryan looked down to hide a reaction. Mercer stepped closer. You think this is funny? No, Angela said. I think it is expensive. A black sedan entered the lot from the frontage road, moving faster than normal traffic, but not recklessly. It did not stop at a pump. It parked near the air machine with clean precision. Two people stepped out in dark business attire, both wearing earpieces, both scanning the scene before their shoes fully touched the pavement. No lights, no sirens, no wasted motion. The taller of the two, a woman with silver hair tied back tightly, walked straight toward Mercer. Officer in charge? She asked. Mercer straightened instinctively. Who are you? She produced identification so quickly it was visible only for a second. Whatever Mercer saw drained the certainty from his face. Special Liaison Office, Department of Defense, she said. Remove the restraints immediately. Mercer blinked. On what grounds? The woman turned slightly and looked at Angela first, not him. Mrs. Brooks, I apologize for the delay. Ryan's eyes widened. Mercer's mouth opened, then closed. Ma'am, he said to the liaison, voice suddenly dry. We have a possible stolen vehicle report. The second official, a broad man with a tablet in hand, answered without emotion. Vehicle title confirmed. Registered legally. Insurance active. No theft report attached to this plate. Your dispatch system pulled a neighboring state number with one digit transposed. Silence rolled across the lot. Each parking lot turned upward. The sound overhead deepened until the loose pennants above the car wash lane snapped in the wind. It was not close enough to shake the ground, but close enough to command every eye in the lot. A military helicopter crossed low over the highway, dark against the bright afternoon sky, then banked east toward the city. It did not land. It did not need to. Its presence alone changed the temperature of the moment. Officer Mercer stood motionless, one hand still near his radio, the other hanging uselessly at his side. Ryan Cole had already stepped forward with trembling fingers to unlock Angela's cuffs. The metal clicked open and fell away. Angela rolled her wrists once, slowly, as though releasing nothing more serious than a bracelet clasp. She accepted the sting in silence. Ma'am, Ryan said, voice low, I am sorry. She looked at him with measured kindness. Learn fast, she replied. That apology may matter someday. He swallowed and nodded. The silver-haired liaison turned to Mercer. Badge number. Mercer hesitated. Now. He answered quickly. The broad man beside her entered it into the tablet without expression. Around them, the gas station had become a courtroom with no walls. The woman in scrubs kept recording. The truck driver removed his cap. Even the clerk inside the store stood straighter, sensing history in a place that usually sold lottery tickets and beef jerky. Mercer cleared his throat. Mrs. Brooks, there was a systems error and an active investigation protocol. No, Angela said gently, cutting through him without raising her voice. There was an error in your system. The protocol happened in you. The words landed harder than anger could have. Mercer's face tightened. He searched for authority and found none left nearby. Ryan looked away. The liaison took one step closer to Angela. Your vehicle is secure. We can escort you to the hospital immediately. Angela glanced at the clock above the station entrance. 4:21 p.m. Too many minutes gone. I will drive myself, she said. I need one more thing first. She bent, picked up the water bottle from pump number 4, and placed the pharmacy bag carefully on the hood of her SUV. Then she turned back to Mercer. No audience member breathed loudly enough to break the stillness. You saw a black woman standing beside a late-model vehicle and decided the story before you knew the facts, she said. You heard calm speech and called it manipulation. You heard urgency and called it lying. You were never policing danger. You were defending an assumption. Mercer opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was nothing in reach to argue with. Angela's gaze softened, which somehow made it worse. My father taught cadets for years, she continued. He said the most dangerous people in uniform are not the cruel ones first. They are the certain ones. The truck driver gave one slow nod. The woman in scrubs lowered her phone just enough to wipe tears she did not expect. Ryan stood as still as a student. Then a convoy of black sport utility vehicles rolled into the lot from the frontage road, polished paint reflecting sun in sharp ribbons. They parked in disciplined sequence near the ice freezer and the vacuum stalls. Doors opened together. Men and women in service dress uniforms stepped out with quiet precision. No one rushed. No one needed to. The final rear door opened last. A tall man with silver at his temples emerged in full uniform, for stars gleaming on each shoulder. He scanned the lot once, found Angela immediately, and every person present understood they had just witnessed the moment before consequences arrive. General Marcus Brooks did not hurry across the pavement. He walked with the calm pace of a man who had spent a lifetime entering rooms already under control. Sunlight struck the ribbons on his chest and the polished black of his shoes. Every step seemed to silence something else. The radios, the whispers, the excuses forming in Officer Mercer's throat. Two uniformed aides remained several feet behind him, hands clasped, eyes forward. Marcus stopped in front of Angela first. Not the officers, not the federal liaison. Her. For one brief second, the four-star general was only a husband seeing what should never have happened. His eyes moved to the faint red pressure marks on her wrists, then to the paper pharmacy bag, then back to her face. Were you hurt? He asked quietly. Angela shook her head once. Only delayed. Relief crossed his features so quickly it was almost private. He reached up and gently straightened the collar of her blouse where the wind had folded it. I told you I would be nearby, he said. You said 10 minutes, she answered. You made it in 9. A few people in the lot exhaled at the same time. Marcus allowed the smallest smile. Then it vanished as he turned toward Mercer. The officer straightened instinctively, chin lifting as though posture alone might rebuild authority. It did not. Marcus studied him in complete silence for several seconds. It was not theatrical. It was worse. It was patient. Your name? Marcus said at last. Officer Daniel Mercer, sir. Did my wife threaten anyone? No, sir. Did she resist? No, sir. Did she provide a lawful explanation and request verification? Mercer swallowed. Yes, sir. Marcus nodded once. Then what exactly did you believe you were protecting? Mercer searched the lot for rescue and found none. Ryan Cole stared at the pavement. The liaison looked at her tablet. The crowd waited. I made a judgment call, Mercer said finally. Marcus's expression did not move. That phrase has hidden more cowardice than I can count. The words were quiet, but they carried farther than shouting. Angela stepped beside her husband, not behind him. Marcus, she said softly, my father. The general's focus shifted instantly. How long? Too long. He looked toward the SUV, then back to Mercer one final time. My father-in-law trained soldiers from every state in this country. He taught them that rank means service, not permission. Marcus glanced at Ryan. And you, Officer Cole, when truth was available, why did you wait for permission to touch it? Ryan's face flushed. I was wrong, sir. Good, Marcus said, knowing that is how men begin to improve. Then he turned to the silver-haired liaison. Ensure body camera footage is preserved. Full review requested. No special treatment. Just complete treatment. Already initiated, General, she replied. Angela opened the driver door of the SUV, then paused. She looked back at Mercer, who seemed smaller now not because his body changed, but because certainty had left him. You asked if someone important was coming, she said. Importance is not stars on a shoulder. It is how you treat people when nobody powerful is watching. Mercer lowered his eyes. She got into the vehicle. Marcus walked around to the passenger side instead of being driven, choosing the seat beside her. Before closing the door, he looked once more at the lot, the phones, the uniforms, the witnesses. The country is always watching, he said. Then the door shut softly. The convoy engines started in sequence. As the black vehicles rolled toward the highway, no one moved to stop them, and no one present would ever hear an ordinary gas station the same way again. The convoy moved through late afternoon traffic with disciplined ease, black vehicles parting lanes like water around stone. Inside the lead SUV, the city passed in flashes of storefront glass, stoplights, and faces that had no idea what had just unfolded 20 minutes away. Angela sat in the rear seat beside Marcus, the pharmacy bag resting carefully in her lap. The cold bottle of water pressed against her wrist where the cuffs had left faint marks. She had not complained once. Now, in the privacy of tinted windows and soft engine hum, silence finally had room to breathe. Marcus loosened his collar one notch and looked at her hands. You should have called me sooner. Angela kept her eyes on the road ahead. I did not know I needed a convoy to buy aspirin. He exhaled through his nose, halfway between a sigh and a laugh. You know that is not what I mean. She turned to him then, tiredness visible for the first time all day. I know exactly what you mean. The vehicle passed beneath an overpass, shadows sliding across their faces like dark water. Neither spoke until sunlight returned. I am sorry, Marcus said quietly. For what happened, for the delay, for every room where my rank can open doors your dignity should open on its own. Angela's expression softened. That is too much apology for one man to carry. Then help me carry it, he answered. She reached over and took his hand. The stars on his shoulder meant nothing in that moment. He was simply a husband trying to make sense of a world that still surprised him in the worst ways. Do you know what upset me most? she asked. The cuffs? No. She looked down at the medicine bag. The time? Marcus glanced at the dashboard clock. 4:37 p.m. We will make it. I promised Daddy I would be there before the evening shift changed, she said. He notices little things now. The smell of coffee. Which nurse walks softly? Whether sunlight hits the curtain before dinner. Her voice remained steady, but each detail carried weight. He was always like that, Marcus said. Observing everything. Angela smiled faintly. He observed you the first day I brought you home. You remember what he said? Marcus nodded immediately. He said, if a man wears medals comfortably, he probably earned them honestly. And then he asked you to mow the lawn in 90-degree heat. Marcus laughed fully this time, warm and brief. I was trying to impress him. You pushed the mower into the flower bed. The driver glanced up in the mirror, smiling despite himself. The laughter faded gently, replaced by something deeper. Outside, the skyline of St. Matthew Medical Center rose ahead, pale against the bright sky. Ambulances waited near the emergency entrance. Families moved in and out through revolving doors carrying flowers, balloons, fear, hope. Ordinary sacred cargo. Marcus straightened. When we get inside, there will be staff who recognize me. Then remove your jacket, Angela said at once. He looked surprised. Why? Because today is not about you being seen. He held her gaze, then slowly removed the decorated uniform jacket and folded it beside him. Underneath was a plain white shirt. Simpler. Human. Better, she said. The convoy slowed at the hospital curb, but Angela touched the driver's seat back before the door opened. One more stop. Ma'am, the driver asked. She lifted the pharmacy bag. My father hates hospital coffee. There is a vending machine in the lobby that sells peach tea. We are not going upstairs without it. Marcus stared at her for a second, then smiled with quiet admiration. Even after humiliation, delay, and public insult, she was still thinking of someone else's comfort. The SUV came to a stop. Beyond the glass doors, evening light pooled across the lobby floor like gold waiting for them. The hospital lobby smelled of polished floors, hand sanitizer, and coffee that had been sitting too long on a burner. Evening sunlight streamed through the west-facing windows in long amber bars, turning the white tile into something softer than stone. Angela stepped through the sliding doors first, carrying the peach tea bottle and the paper pharmacy bag. Marcus followed one pace behind in his plain white shirt, his folded uniform jacket draped over one arm. Without the stars, most people saw only a tall man with tired eyes walking beside his wife. That was exactly how Angela wanted it. At the reception desk, a young volunteer looked up and smiled politely. Can I help you? Angela nodded. Room 12 ICU. Harold Bennett. The volunteer checked the screen, then brightened. He has been asking every 10 minutes if his daughter is here yet. Angela closed her eyes for a heartbeat, absorbing both guilt and gratitude in the same breath. We are here now. The elevator ride was quiet except for the low hum of cables and distant announcements drifting through the shaft. On the fourth floor, nurses moved with practiced speed, sneakers whispering across waxed floors, charts tucked beneath arms, voices calm no matter the urgency behind them. A nurse at the station recognized Angela immediately. Miss Brooks, he has been waiting for you. He refused dinner until you came. Angela smiled despite herself. That stubbornness is hereditary. The nurse glanced at Marcus and did a double take, recognition flickering across her face. Marcus gave a small nod that politely requested silence. She understood at once. He is awake, she said softly. Good spirits. Better when he argues. Angela pushed open the door to room 12. Harold Bennett lay propped against white pillows, thinner than the man who once filled every doorway he entered, but no smaller somehow. Age had silvered his hair and illness had narrowed his frame, yet his eyes remained sharp as winter sky. He looked first at the clock on the wall, then at Angela. You are 23 minutes late, he said. Angela laughed through sudden tears. Hello to you too, Daddy. He extended one hand, and she crossed the room quickly to take it. His grip was weaker than before, but the old steadiness lived inside it. Traffic, he asked. Something like that. Harold's gaze shifted to Marcus. Son, why are you dressed like a substitute math teacher? Marcus stepped closer, smiling. Because your daughter ordered me to be ordinary for an hour. Smart woman, Harold replied. You should marry her. Angela shook her head. He keeps saying yes. Harold noticed the faint marks on her wrists then. His eyes sharpened instantly. What happened? The room seemed to pause. Angela set the peach tea on his tray table and smoothed the blanket near his knees. A misunderstanding at a gas station. Harold kept looking at her hands. Those are not misunderstanding marks. Marcus spoke carefully. It has been handled. Handled is not the same as learned, Harold said. Even weak, the sentence carried command. Angela sat beside him. Daddy, please. Today is about you. He studied her face, then relaxed by degrees. Then tell me something useful. Did you bring my tea? She lifted the bottle. Peach, like always. Now I know I raised you right. He took a slow sip, eyes closing in satisfaction. The monitor beside the bed kept its gentle rhythm. Outside the window, the sky was turning copper over the parking garage. Harold opened one eye and looked at Marcus again. You know why she came late? Marcus shook his head. Harold smiled faintly. Because wherever there is foolishness, my daughter stops to correct it. Angela laughed. Marcus did too. In the hallway, unnoticed by the family inside, the same nurse quietly wiped her eyes and wrote one note on the chart. Patient mood greatly improved. By the time the evening lights came on across the hospital campus, room 12 had changed. It no longer felt like a place where people waited for bad news. It felt like a family room that happened to contain monitors. Harold Bennett had eaten half his dinner, corrected a nurse's grammar twice, and insisted the peach tea tasted better because his daughter delivered it personally. Angela sat beside the bed peeling an orange into neat spirals while Marcus reviewed messages on his phone with the sound turned off. Outside the window, city traffic moved like ribbons of red and white light below the darkening sky. Then there was a soft knock at the door. The nurse stepped in first, uncertain. Miss Brooks, she said quietly. There is someone asking to speak with you. He says it cannot wait. Angela looked up. Who? The nurse hesitated. Officer Mercer. Silence settled over the room, so suddenly even the monitor seemed louder. Marcus lowered his phone. Harold slowly set down his fork. Interesting, he said. Angela stood. Send him in. Mercer entered without the certainty he had worn at the gas station. His uniform was still pressed, but now it looked heavy on him. His cap was in his hands. His shoulders were lower. Behind him stood Ryan Cole, equally quiet, carrying a small envelope. Neither man stepped far into the room. Mrs. Brooks, Mercer said, voice rough with restraint. I was told you were here. Angela did not invite him closer. You found me. He nodded once. Yes, ma'am. His eyes moved to Harold, then to Marcus, then back to Angela. I asked to come because paperwork is easy. Reports are easy. Statements are easy. But I was wrong in person, so I wanted to apologize in person. No one spoke. Mercer continued. I saw what I expected to see instead of what was in front of me. I used authority to defend my own assumption. There is no excuse for that. Ryan stepped forward and handed Angela the envelope. This is the receipt for the medicine, ma'am, he said. I paid for it after you left. It seemed like the least I could do. Angela looked at the envelope but did not open it. Harold watched the officers with calm intensity. Young man, he said to Mercer, do you know the first rule of command? Mercer straightened automatically. No, sir. It is not control. It is self-control. Mercer absorbed the words like weight. Harold pointed to the empty chair by the wall. Sit down. Mercer blinked. Sir, if you are going to learn something tonight, do it seated. The officer obeyed. Ryan remained. Standing near the door, Harold folded his hands over the blanket. People think prejudice always shouts, he said. Often it whispers. It tells a man he is being careful when he is really being fearful. It tells him he is being thorough when he is being selective. It tells him he is protecting the public while he is protecting a story he already chose. Mercer's eyes lowered. Yes, sir. Angela finally spoke. Why did you really come? He looked up at her. There was no defense left in his face now. Because when you drove away, I realized the worst part was not that I embarrassed myself. It was that I delayed a daughter from seeing her father. The room held that sentence gently. Angela glanced at Harold, whose expression had softened. Marcus remained silent, letting the moment belong to her. She walked to Mercer and held out the unopened envelope. Keep your money, she said. Use it to buy a notebook. He looked confused. Write down every time certainty tries to speak before evidence does. Mercer accepted the envelope back with trembling hands. Angela stepped aside. Then start over. He rose slowly, eyes wet but steady. Yes, ma'am. As the two officers left the room, Harold leaned back against his pillow and smiled faintly. That, he said, is how discipline is supposed to sound. The hospital quieted after 9 o'clock in the way only hospitals can, never truly silent, only softer. Footsteps became gentler. Voices lowered behind half-closed doors. Machines continued their steady work like patient clocks that never slept. In room 12, Harold Bennett had finally drifted off with the peach tea bottle empty on the tray and a crossword puzzle resting upside down on his chest. Angela adjusted the blanket over him, careful not to wake him. Marcus dimmed the lamp near the window until the room glowed in warm amber instead of white fluorescent light. For a long moment, they simply stood there, daughter and son-in-law, watching the old man breathe. Outside, rain had begun to fall in a thin silver mist across the parking lot, softening the reflections of streetlights below. He looked stronger tonight, Marcus said quietly. Angela nodded. He needed something to complain about. Marcus smiled. Then Officer Mercer may have extended his life. She gave him a look, and he lifted both hands in surrender. The humor passed gently into stillness. Angela sat in the chair beside the bed and traced one finger over the edge of her father's weathered hand. When I was 10, she said, I came home crying because a teacher accused me of cheating on a test. Marcus leaned against the window ledge, listening. Daddy asked if I cheated. I said no. He said, then do not borrow shame from someone else's mistake. She looked at the faint marks on her wrists, now fading to almost nothing. I heard his voice today before I heard mine. Marcus crossed the room and knelt beside her chair. Not as a general, not as a man used to command, just as the person who knew where her strength came from. And what did it say? Angela smiled faintly. Stand still. Let truth do the moving. Rain tapped the glass in small, steady rhythms. Down the hall, a nurse laughed quietly at something unseen. Somewhere a newborn cried, then settled. Life continued in every direction at once. Marcus took her hand and turned it palm up, studying the skin where metal had pressed earlier. I can make calls, he said softly. I can make examples. I can make careers very difficult by sunrise. Angela shook her head. No, why? Because fear changes behavior for a day. Understanding changes it for years. He held her gaze, then nodded slowly. You sound like your father. That is because he has been interrupting me my whole life. As if summoned by the remark, Harold opened one eye without moving his head. And improving every sentence, he murmured. Angela laughed and leaned over to kiss his forehead. Go back to sleep, Daddy. I was sleeping, he said. You two were talking too loud with your hearts. He closed his eye again almost immediately. Marcus looked at Angela in amazement. How does he do that? Training, she whispered. Midnight neared. The rain eased. The city lights beyond the window sharpened again. Angela rose and moved to the glass, looking down at